I promise to keep this a secret and never reveal it while I am alive. Therefore, if you are reading this, it means I have already passed away. The reason why I could not disclose this before my death is that it involves 2 countries and a wealthy and influential company. However, I have chosen to reveal this now because I feel obligated to provide closure to the deceased and their families. My name is Ian Thompson, and I have been in the automotive business for more than 20 years. I still vividly remember my early days as a car mechanic, which were the days that I cherish. As time passed, I honed my skills and became more proficient in my craft. After completing my part-time vocational institute studies, I was promoted to the position of senior mechanic. 5 years later, I took an exam with my company and was promoted to the position of engineer. I was then tasked with collaborating with universities to work on a new type of electric vehicle. 10 years later, when the project was completed, my company recognized my effort and success by promoting me to a managerial position. I held this managerial position for 2 years until I learned of an opening for a plant manager position in a Southeast Asian country within my company. As I fit the bill, I applied for the position and underwent rounds of interviews and eliminations before ultimately getting the job. As soon as all the paperwork was ready, I flew over to Bangkok. The new factory is located 100 kilometers south of Bangkok and is still under development. It takes approximately an hour to drive from Bangkok to the factory plot. Upon arriving at the factory plot area, I checked into a nearby hostel. The groundbreaking ceremony is scheduled for tomorrow. As I stepped onto the plot of land for the groundbreaking ceremony, I felt a sense of frustration overwhelm me. Suddenly, anger and vengeful thoughts started to well up inside of me. These dark and ominous feelings continued to grow. In an attempt to quell these emotions, I began chanting a prayer. After 10 minutes of chanting, I started to notice a reduction in these negative feelings, and eventually, I returned to my normal state. The groundbreaking ceremony was about to begin, with representatives from the company, government, and construction company all present. The ceremony involved a basic ribbon-cutting ceremony and shoveling of dirt from the ground, followed by a speech from each representative. After the groundbreaking ceremony, the construction of the factory will commence, and it is expected to take 6 months to complete. However, strange occurrences begin to happen once the construction begins, such as machine breakdowns, incidents, and frequent accidents. These events cause delays in the construction process. As a result, the construction company decides to hire Buddhist monks to perform a prayer ceremony in an attempt to appease the souls that are believed to be haunting the area. As the day began, Buddhist monks arrived and placed offerings of flowers, fruits, and incense to appease the spirits. When the time came, the monks began chanting according to Buddhist scriptures. As the chanting reached its peak, the ground began to shake. However, the spirits were not appeased by the offerings and chanting, and the leader of the monks began bleeding from both eyes, ears, nostrils, and mouth. The ground continued to shake violently, causing everything to fall to the ground. The monk leader collapsed, and the other monks stopped chanting to help him to a safe area. Once the chanting stopped, the ground ceased shaking. The monks apologized to the construction representative for being unable to help and then packed up and left. Construction had to continue, but work resumed at a slower pace because everyone had to tread carefully. Accidents still occurred, but there were no fatalities, and only minor injuries occurred. Finally, the construction of the factory was completed, but 3 months later than the expected date. After the completion of the factory construction, we started moving in the equipment for vehicle production. Everything was fine, and soon we started hiring people for the production floor. In total, more than 3,500 workers were hired, forming the administrative team, manufacturing team, quality team, and assembly team. As production days began, minor hiccups started to happen. As time passed, things eventually became worse. There were broken fingers, sprained ankles, sprained feet, and broken legs. Unexplainable things started to happen. Then one evening, The factory just black out. The electrician checked. It seems that everything is okay, but power just won't come back on. Even the backup generators will not start. Workers were all frightened. Some even started chanting prayers. Then there was a scream coming from the production floor. I proceeded over to check on what has happened. To my horror, I saw a Japanese in soldier uniform wielding a katana slashing at a production member. She had tried to run, but the soldier was simply too fast. The blade came down and she was cut from her right shoulder to the left hip. I saw him going in for the kill. I did not know where had I found courage, but I shouted, "Stop! In the name of God!" The soldier stopped, turned and stared at me. From his dark stare, he seemed to be telling me that he'll be back, and the soldier vanished into thin air. I felt a chill down my spine, but I instructed the floor supervisor to call for ambulance and the emergency response team to take care of the wounded till the ambulance arrived. As the ambulance arrived to take the injured worker to the hospital, I called the executive director of the factory. The director instructed me to remain silent about the incident and that we would have a meeting in the morning. He also said that he would visit the injured personnel immediately. When the director arrived at the factory the next day, a meeting was held. Everyone was warned not to speak about the incident or risk losing their job. The incident was promptly covered up, with even the injured worker claiming that she had cut herself on the machine during the blackout. The final report revealed that the blackout was caused by a fault in the electrical grid, resulting in an electrical short circuit. This also explained why the backup generator failed to kick in. The chief electrician received a warning, and the matter was considered closed. I had a sense that something was not right, so I began my own investigation. What I discovered truly shocked me. The plot of land for the factory was acquired from the government at a higher rate, 25% higher than the current market value. What's worse, the area was occupied by the Japanese during the Second World War, and when Japan surrendered in 1945, about 4,000 soldiers committed suicide here. In the 1970s, the Thai government encouraged people to set up a farming village in the area, which quickly sprang up as it was fertile land for farming. However, a few years later, all the villages suddenly vanished without a trace overnight. The government sent people to investigate the disappearances, but to no avail. After months of fruitless investigation, they gave up. The Thai government was supposed to excavate the remains of the Japanese soldiers and relocate them to a proper burial ground, but rumors suggest that the government did not do a good job. After reporting my findings, I advised the director to relocate our factory to a new site. However, he not only refused my proposal but also discarded my report and threatened to fire me if I continued investigating. Consequently, I was transferred to another country. On September 5th of that year, the news of the Thailand factory shutdown shocked the entire company, leaving everyone puzzled with no information available. Shortly after, the head office contacted me and requested that I fly over to see the chief executive director as soon as possible. During the meeting, I noticed a gray folder on his desk, which was the same one I had submitted to the factory director. The chief executive director began to ask me questions about the investigation, but I told him that all the information was in the report that the factory director had thrown away. Surprisingly, the report had surfaced on the chief executive director's desk, and he showed me security footage of the production area. The footage showed that all 4,000 factory workers were gathered on the production floor, kneeling down. Suddenly, their heads fell off from their necks and rolled onto the floor, drenching the entire area in blood. Before the security footage went blank, a face appeared in front of the camera, and I recognized him as the Japanese ghost who had previously slashed a lady worker with a katana blade. He stared directly at me, smirking as if to suggest that he had returned. The chief executive director informed me that the factory director had accepted a bribe from a Thai official in order to persuade our company to acquire the current plot of land. Additionally, it was discovered that the extra 25% our company paid for the land was directly given to the same official. Furthermore, it was uncovered that the factory's original location was intended to be 40 kilometers away from its current location. The chief executive director requested that I not disclose this information to anyone and offered to reward me with $30 million for my assistance in apprehending the corrupt factory director.